Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will continue with our discussion on ergonomic assessment tools. We discussed Nordic Musculoskeletal Questionnaire in the previous segment. So that is one of the tools to assess the prevalence of pain in different body parts. In this segment, we will discuss Quick Exposure Checklist, or QEC for short. So this is also used for the assessment of workplace risks for work-related musculoskeletal disorders. The quick exposure checklist quickly assesses the exposure to risks for work-related musculoskeletal disorders. QEC is based on the practitioner's needs and research on major WMSD risk factors. So if you recall, we discussed a couple of risk factors in detail in previous lectures. So one of them was posture, yet another was load, but other factors could also be there like vibrations or even the monotony and stress. So this tool, QEC, actually addresses multiple risk factors for WMSDs. So that is actually something very important with respect to this tool. So this tool has a high level of sensitivity, that is the ability to identify a change in exposure before and after an ergonomic intervention. So small changes in the workplace design can be assessed actually using this tool. So that is sensitivity. It also has a high level of usability and reliability. So it is easy to use and it has high reliability. That is, same person observing the same task at different time periods, or two trained people observing the same task will result in consistent results. So that is the reliability. So it's a very useful tool. QEC quickly identifies the exposure levels for the back. So the main body parts addressed are back, shoulder and arm, wrist and hand, and neck. And the method evaluates whether an ergonomic intervention can effectively reduce these exposure levels. So generally, QEC is used for before-after analysis to compare, for example, to job designs or to designs of workplace or equipment. So this is sort of front page or title page that describes what QEC is. So it assesses the changes in exposure to musculoskeletal risk factors of the back, shoulders and arms, hands and wrists, and neck before and after an ergonomic intervention. One important point here is that in QEC, there are actually two assessments. One is by the observer who conducts the assessment, and the second one is by the worker himself who has direct experience of the task. And we combine both assessments to reach the final result. So there is a QEC guide that actually details the steps and the procedure to use this tool. So first we again need the basic information related to the task being analyzed. So worker's name, job title, task, the person who is assessing the task, day, time, and so on. Then you can see that we have two sets of assessments: observer's assessment and worker's assessment. So observer asks questions related to different risk factors. So you can see that most of the questions with respect to observer are related to to the different body parts. So first question relates to back, then shoulder and arm, wrist and hand, and neck. For example, related to back is when performing the task, the back is almost neutral, moderately flexed, or excessively flexed, uh, or twisted or side bent. So what is meant by these moderate flexion twisting or side bending or excessive flexion twisting or side bending can be found from the QEC guide. So any one of these three is ticked. So there are two sets of questions again, and one of them is to be selected. So the task could be seated or standing stationary task. So either yes or no is ticked here, or it could be some lifting, pushing, pulling, and carrying task. So any of these three options is to be ticked. So if that lifting, pushing, pulling, and carrying task is infrequent, or it is frequent or very frequent, and these are defined as 3 times per minute, 8 times per minute, or around 12 times per minute or more. Then some questions related to shoulder and arm, actually two questions. So when the task is performed, are the hands at or below waist height, at about chest height, at or above shoulder height? And is the shoulder arm movement infrequent, frequent, or very frequent? The wrist and hand is the task performed with an almost straight wrist or elevated or bent wrist, are similar motion patterns actually repeated 10 times per minute or less, 11 to 20 times per minute, or more than 20 times per minute. And then, of course, the question related to neck. So when performing the task, is the head/neck bent or twisted? No, yes, occasionally, and yes, continuously. So these are the observations by the observer or practitioner. Then questions are asked from the worker. So first question relates to weight. So weight is less than or equal to 5 kg, 6 to 10 kg, 11 to 20 kg, more than 20 kg. On average, how much time do you spend per day on this task? Less than 2 hours, 2 to 4, or more than 4 hours? So you can see that these questions are different than the ones that the observer observed. So related to weight, duration, then the force exertion. So what is the force exerted? Less than 1 kg, 1 to 4 kg, or more than 4 kg. Visual demand. So you can see we are adding more risk factors other than the posture. So the observer mostly observed things related to posture, the angle, the twisting and bending that can be easily observed, but few things that worker can tell better or they cannot be observed are being filled by the worker himself. So visual demand is low or high. Similarly, at work, do you drive vehicle for less than 1 hour per day or never, between 1 and 4 hours per day, or more than 4 hours per day? Vibrations, less than 1 hour per day or never, between 1 and 4 hours, and more than 4 hours. Difficulty keeping up with the task. So that is, you can say, the monotony or something like that. So never, sometimes, often. And finally, in general, how do you find this job? So that is related to stress. No stress, mildly stressful, moderately stressful, or very stressful. So you can see these are some alphanumeric codes related to each of the options that is there against each question. So these bind together to reach some score. So for example, for back, we are matching H and A score. So score H related to loads or weight. These options, A related to the posture of the back. So both are combined. So for example, if the score related to back posture was 4 and related to Sorry, if the score related to back was A2, if that score was A2 and related to load was H3, so the score for back will be 8. So we will write 8 here. Similarly, we have another matching of A and J. So again, A was related to the posture of back and J was related to the time spent on the task. So the score was say A2 for the back and J3 for the duration. So we would end up with 8 here as well. So similarly, you could continue. So there is another matching here between height and duration, C and J. So here you can see the C scores and you have J scores. J is related to the duration. So we could match these. So for example, C1 and J3 would result in 6. So in this way, we can combine these scores. So total score for the back is sum of the scores 1 to 4. So we will write it here. So that will be the score for back. Similarly, we will add in this column, in second column, we will add the scores 1 to 5. So score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to reach a score for shoulder and arm. In the third column, we will again add scores 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to reach a score for wrist and hand. And similarly, we have a score for neck by adding these two scores. So that is the score for neck, score for driving, vibration, work pace, and finally stress. So we can use again bar chart to show the score for these different body parts. And we can compare before and after situation, how much improvement has been there. We can compare the total score in both situations. There is another possibility that we calculate the maximum score. That is possible using QEC. So maximum score in column 1 plus column 2 plus column 3 plus these scores, and find the percentage of score that is obtained after analysis divided by maximum score and convert it into some percentage. And we can have similar table just like ruler to define the action categories for QC as well. So one of the major benefits of QEC is that it covers some major physical risk factors, not only posture, but load, duration, vibrations, stress, monotony, etc. So that is a major benefit. So it gives a comprehensive analysis of conditions at a workplace. It considers user needs and can be used by inexperienced users, so its usability is quite high. So as we saw in the last table that it considers combination and interaction of multiple workplace risk factors. It provides good level for sensitivity and usability. So small changes in the design of the workplace can be assessed using this method. It provides encouraging level of inter and intra-observer reliability. It's a quite reliable tool, gives consistent results, and it is easy to learn and quick to use. So it can be used in multiple scenarios like loading and unloading of boxes, stone picking tasks, laboratory work, general office work, jobs in warehouse, printing works, agrochemical plant, engine manufacturing plant, and so on. So this was brief description of QC. If you have any questions, you can ask.